Thank you there, and we're all set to go. Mr. Masson, how are you? Good to go. Good. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today to our Public Works and Urban Beautification meeting for September 22nd. Call the meeting to order. Declarations of conflict of interest. I see none. Good. Thank you, folks. Approval of the agenda. I'll need a motion moved by Councillor Duffy, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. All those in favor of the agenda? All good. Thank you very much. Adoption of the minutes, and we have two. One is the Public Works Urban Beautification Committee meeting of August 17th, and we also have the Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities that was held on September the 8th, so I'll need a mover and a seconder first. Good. Councillor Ramsey's moved it, seconded by Councillor Duffy. All those in favor? All right, good. Thank you very much. Business arising from these minutes. Anybody got any, or they need a second?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I just want to bring up the issue of the Beech Grove culvert replacement. I want to thank the chief engineer, Scott, for his work, Scott Adams, on working with the residents, because the beginning of this week, the traffic, as you know, coming from Cornwall, going east into Charlottetown, clogs up the traffic or backs up the traffic in May Point Road. So the province and the city, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Adams, province and the city worked on providing flaggers to slow down the traffic coming east so that it could allow traffic from May Point Road to exit onto Capitol Drive. So that's been a big help. And I believe Mr. Adams has modified or worked on the traffic signalization on the Queen's Arms intersection, so there's a longer period. So I think this is working, but Mr. Adams, I think that the project, we've projected 3 months for that project. You know construction, like anyone that's been in construction, three months can sometimes be the minimum, not the maximum. So if we can look at possibilities of making the workday or providing more working opportunities for Birch Hill construction so that we can get this completed sooner than later, because that traffic link is a key link. And I know the last time they did it was back in 1982, and it was, I believe, Norman Stewart from Square K Construction that did put that that creosote box culvert in that area. And they did keep one line of traffic open. We're not doing that, I know that. The Bailey Bridge is off the table, but just keeping the traffic flowing May Point onto Capitol Drive will be a big help, and hopefully providing more working opportunities for Birch Hill construction.
And yeah, and then I can just comment on that one. So we have talked to the contractor on that. We will have a meeting with them next week to discuss some options for crashing their schedule, extending hours, weekend work, things like that. So we're going to be looking at all options. All options are on the table to speed up, to reduce this time that we are at this culvert work.
Mr. Adams, I will be following up.
And at the risk of sounding like the CAO, it all costs money.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Ramsey, you wanted to say
Yes, I'd like to sort of comment on that too, if I may, Mr. Chair. I was out the other day a couple times, and then I was talking to some of people who drive in the transit. And the day I was out by there, it was mid-morning. The machinery wasn't being moved. No workers were around or anything like that. I was just wondering, was there an issue there this past couple of weeks with the contractor, because the machinery sat there and there's nobody around and nobody in the machinery? And I was just wondering if something came above that people should know about.
Certainly. So as far as I know, and I'll have to confirm with my staff who look after that project day to day, there was activity this week. We're just a bit delayed with the crane. It's supposed to show up first of next week. Once you see the crane show up, you'll see it would be a beehive of activity. But I think that was was just the crane showing up. So they have ripped out some of the asphalt, the guide rails all gone, things like that have already started to take place. And some of the gabion baskets, so the rock baskets on the slope have been ripped out as well. So there has been activity, but once the crane shows up, things will start taking shape.
Thank you very much. Any other thing before we go into reports from the minutes? If not, good. Okay, we'll go into reports, but I'll first just, I want to mention that we do have some guests here today. We have Heidi and Shalyn, I believe, are with the DCI, and we have Mr. Matheson, and I'm sorry, your first name? Steve Jr., right, okay. I wasn't sure if you were Steve or not. Okay, so we have folks, and then we also have Councillor Bernard here as a guest as well, and we have Sue Fraser, and we have Donna Waddell. So we're in good shape, and then, of course, we have the man holding down the fort, Mr. Adams. So we'll move right into reports. 6A is the Kent Street Lighting Project update, and Scott, you got the floor.
Certainly, so I'll just do a quick, brief introduction, and I'll turn it over to Shalyn and Heidi. So they had gone out to, I guess, follow up from the last time you guys saw the plans. They had gone out to tender for this work, and unfortunately, prices have come in unbelievably high for this project. So Heidi and her team have looked at a number of options to reduce the scope to try to bring down those costs. And I'll let them, I'll turn it over to them so that they can talk about it.
I see. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Is everyone tired of hearing about this project yet? I'm kind of tired of talking about it. Do we have it up on the screen, the drawing? Okay. So yes, as Scott mentioned, we were really happy to finally go to tender, and we had 3 bids, which I think Shalyn was really surprised about, considering how busy everyone is. And if you'll recall, the project needs to be completed by the end of December. We've had 2 amendments to our funding agreement from the federal government, and this is the very final one, so it has to be complete by December 31st. So we are, on track to make that happen. We went out to tender. The project budget was $280,000. The lowest bid came in at $500,000, and the other 2 were 1.2 and 1.3 million. So we all were quite shocked. Shalyn and Elliot Coles, who we've been working with, as well as Scott, said that this has been very common this year, just with labor shortages and supply chain issues. This is something that we're kind of running into everywhere. So we sat down with Thane Hansen, who is the lowest, was the lowest bidder, and discussed how we can make this work and how we can proceed, because I think we've all spent a lot of time on this project and want to see that it moves forward. So up on the screen behind me is kind of just an overview of the site plan for kind of what we're proposing. So if you'll recall, without getting into too much background, initially we had hoped to go along the whole street and attach to the buildings. The cost would have just been basically the garb wire and the doodads that go on top. That we finally came to an agreement with Fire. They didn't want to attach to the buildings. They wanted it attached to lampposts. In chatting with Scott, this seemed to work out quite well, because we understood that these were some of the oldest lampposts in the city that were on schedule to be replaced in the next couple of years. So we thought that this was a really good partnership opportunity. The 2 areas that you see with the X's on them, which is the infrastructure, like the lighting infrastructure, those were the 2 areas that Fire agreed to allow us to use. They're about 65 feet each-ish. So that hasn't changed. So what we are proposing we do, based on the recommendation from Hansen's, is basically complete what our project is to our funding partners, the visual aspect of it. So that would entail replacing 6 of the lampposts, and then there would be 1 catenary pole. So there would be 6 lampposts. There would be projectors on 4 corners that put designs on the sidewalks. There would be the catenary system, and then there would be the kind of funky lights that would go in between the posts. So that's kind of where we're at. That's really the only way we can move forward. I think the other option was we just replace, I think it was maybe 8 lampposts, and then have no infrastructure and none of the beautification, which unfortunately for us wouldn't fall within the terms of our agreement with our government partners, because they were really contributing to the project because of the beautification aspect, and replacing, or only replacing the lights, unfortunately doesn't meet that requirement. So I'm hoping that, we have your support to move forward with this adjustment based on the revised quotes, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Like you said, it's quite a history. Yeah, that looks nice. There you go. Anyway, any comments, concerns, questions? One from Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you very much for that, Heidi. So if we go ahead with your sort of suggestion, we're staying at around the 250 mark?
Well, actually, no,
Or
it's
we're
going
not going to 500, I guess.
No, it will probably be closer to 3. I think the latest quote from Hanson's is 330. So I have some groveling to do, but I won't be doing it to the city. I'll have to find other people to to beg for money.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ramsey. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support the presentation as presented this afternoon. Let's face it, a little bit less of an improvement is a lot better than no improvement.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of cutting back on the infrastructure in order to accommodate the budget, and I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. And it's something that, Heidi, we could revisit again, I guess, down the road. Could be, if we wanted to extend the project later. Is that something?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think in an ideal world, we would, we hope to do some landscaping, which I'm hoping that in the future is a partnership with the city as well. Like there's some disability improvements that I think need to be made to the sidewalks. There's increased bike racks that can go in. There's landscaping, and we're happy to be a partner in that project and try and source funding, because I think that will really add to the street as well. I think we've definitely diminished our initial vision when we were thinking about having that whole street done, but I think this is a really great start, and I think it's something that we can all build on. Elliot Coles, I'm just looking at his notes to see, he did mention, so the work is generally limited to the clouded area, which in the previous slide, and then when the rest of the lights do get replaced at some point, and the city decides to do that doing this won't cause any more work. Like there won't be any going backwards.
Cool. Okay. Thank you very much. And Mr. Adams, what about accessibility? Anything being added for those folks?
No, because we were satisfied with the original plan in terms of accessibility. The only thing that Heidi's aware of is just the final pole placement. It will have to be determined on site when we make those changes, and it's essentially because it's angled parking. We want to put it in a spot that it doesn't impact vehicles, especially longer vehicles, from sticking out in the laneway. So we're trying to reduce that. But other than that, the height and all that, we confirmed with our staff at the very onset of this project. The height that we want, the minimum height we want to see to ensure snow clearing and all that stuff is still feasible with no issues.
Okay. Thank you very much. So do we need a resolution for this, or this is just really for information only, right? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize, Councillor Yankoff. Go ahead.
Just as counsel for the area, I just had I'm just curious more so, how long will there be, the street be disrupted? And it's probably a Scott question. I mean, obviously it would have been disrupted however the project was going to proceed, but I'm just curious of when it starts and when it finishes, what are we looking at for disruption? Yeah.
Scott has a bit more of a full answer, but I will say that based on the work that's going to be done, it will be a lot less disruptive than was initially planned, because they were going to have to almost dig up the entire street for the wiring. So now, again, it's very isolated. Our hope, and Shallon, jump in, I might be really optimistic, but our hope based on our funding is that we'd have it done by the end of the year.
No start date or?
It ultimately depends when we get the lampposts. Like, I think we would try to minimize the amount of construction, so we wait till we have everything and then we do all the work at once. So we haven't gotten those delivery dates yet, so that's really what the timeline depends on.
So we were 12 weeks out. I mean, if we ordered them October 1st and the timeline was 12 weeks for delivery, we would be looking at the middle of November to start.
Sorry, what did you say?
If we ordered them October 1st, they were about
October
12 weeks,
1st.
right? And so mid-November.
That would take us to January.
Oh, sorry. So, yes, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks would bring us to mid-November.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that good, Councillor?
So did you say that you're going to order them on October 1st and they'll be in 12 weeks? Or did
No,
you say?
sorry. I think that we initially were estimating 12 weeks, but I think the lampposts were like closer to 6.
Yes, they were. And I mean, we haven't came up with a plan with the contractor yet, but like my hope would be that we could do half the street and leave half the street open and then do the other side. So I think like the intention is not to block traffic entirely, I guess.
So if it started the middle of November and you had all of your supplies in it, how long would it take?
I don't want to mislead anyone because I haven't talked to the contractor, but I would say somewhere in the realm of 3 to 4 weeks, start to finish.
And I will say though, like looking at it, so all the base will be precast locally, so they can already do that work. So likely Campbell's will, as soon as they order it, they can be ready in a couple weeks. So actually all the underground work could start as soon as Hanson's wanted to. All the conduit and all the bases could be installed, and any asphalt that was damaged can be replaced well before the asphalt plants close. And then it's just a matter of a few days of putting up the post, light, wire and everything, and stringing everything across the road.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody good there? So we'll just carry on as normal business on that one. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it. And detailed report as usual.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for the
Thank you.
support.
Okay, so moving forward, the capital budgets update, I guess, Scott, you got that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we'll go through this fairly quickly. So what we're trying to do again is the very first, you'll see all the ones % complete. These are the projects that we've already completed to date. And then we go through the rest of the projects, and I'll just highlight some of the major ones. Public Works Building, if anyone's been out there lately, the shell is pretty much up. They're making great progress on that as we speak. And I believe you'll start to see over this next month, you'll start to see the driveway or the parking lot and all the surrounding outside work take shape and get paved as well. Harley Street, just out there today. The sidewalk is practically, we're probably about 75% done the sidewalk, and the first lift of asphalt should be finished by now, with the final lift to go on shortly after that. So they should hit their target of completion date of September 30th. Eastern Gateway, we're still in the design process. We're a bit on hold, waiting for some information from the province and a stormwater modeling project that's ongoing. Street resurfacing is well underway. We have a few streets left to do this coming fall, but things have been going very well with that project. Short Street Extension, the final list of asphalt did go on. Some cleanup work to be done, and that work is completed. Beech Street, Park Street, there isn't an update on this, but we did get the tender out it's posted this morning. So the tender for Beech Street, Park Street connector is out as we speak. St. Peter's Road roundabout, making great progress there. We have all the underground utility work done on the Belvedere and Brackley Point Road side of things. So now we're on to St. Peter's Road, which is a little more complicated with the water especially. But they're making great progress, and we expect completion at the later part of November. Lincoln Street, this sidewalk replacement, they're already have started and continue to work there. Centennial, that work is well underway as well, and expected to be wrapped up in I believe about 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have a few roads that were designed, and there's a resolution or a discussion coming up for a tender that was closed for a couple other sidewalk locations. Multi-use pathways construction, it was supposed to begin on Monday, but with the storm, I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but we will wait to find out that any changes there. We already discussed the Beech Grove Road culvert. Fitzroy Street Parkade, the work has been awarded, just delays on material supply. Some work was supposed to start this month, but we're just waiting for an update from the contractor on that one. Then the Honeywell Project, well underway, as everyone has been aware in this building and other buildings around the city. They're making great progress, and we're probably about 35–40% complete on that. The City Hall roof replacement's the next big one. We are at 99% completion, just some minor cleanup work to be done, some minor details on that. And two other kind of notes. Where are we? Kirkwood Building. Oh yes, Hillsborough Park. So that one is, we have to go for quotes. So we posted a tender. We unfortunately got no bids. So we're going to have to look at our options to get that work designed. That's also the same thing with Harts Hall. We had no bids on that to try to find a consultant to help us with design work on that as well. And the last one, Brighton Lighthouse Shoreline Protection, that has been awarded, and work is they're just waiting for their permits from the province to do that work. And once they do have that, they'll get that work underway.
Just a question on the water infrastructure, water sewer there for the Eastern Gateway there as we go to the roundabout there. Where are we at with that again?
Pardon me, sorry?
The water sewer upgrades to that area there, Riverside Drive, Park, Joe Giz Park, all that area. What's the latest on that?
So for stormwater side of
Yes.
things, yeah. So right now, we have WSP as a consultant, and they're currently doing what we call ground truthing. So they're going out and physically opening catch basins, taking measurements, determining water flows and all that, which they'll take all that data, put into what we call a stormwater modeling system. And based on topography, we know, like we can calculate, based on historic data, they can determine, how much flow will be coming into this catchment area, we call it, of the city, and see how much water is flowing down through the park, Joe Giz Park, and through, out to the harbor. So we need to know that data in order for us to size our pipes accordingly, and see how much water we need to retain in certain areas. So that's where that's at. So that project, that design, or the data collection is well underway. I believe we're supposed to have the model sometime by the end of October. Once we get the model, then that goes to their engineering firm who's doing the Eastern Gateway design work, and they'll take that information and then start designing the pipe work and all that stuff. And our goal would be a tender early next year.
Okay. Because just as a reminder, and we'll probably get a reminder this weekend.
We will.
What's going to happen down there, right?
Yeah.
When people's basements are flooding and roads are washed out, and the phone calls start. It's an area that needs to be done. So I'm glad to see that it's moving ahead to some degree. Okay, so any other questions, folks, for Scott on the capital project update?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may, Mayor.
Yes, Scott, I just want to go back to this Eastern Gateway Phase 1. So EXP is the engineering consulting firm?
So EXP is the consulting firm that will be doing the final design for the stormwater infrastructure and the roadway. WSP, they're out of the Summerside office. Those are the folks that are doing the stormwater modeling. It was determined that we needed to go further. We need to do a lot more work than we originally thought we had to do in order to ensure we size our pipes accordingly through the zone.
So what we're talking about, Scott, is the area that runs parallel to Joe Giz Park that runs from up from the harbor, which is an open ditch and has been an open ditch since the CN rail was right in that area.
Yeah.
So Could I ask, so WSP is subcontracted by EXP?
No, we did it. We went out to tender for that stormwater modeling as well, back sometime this summer. I don't remember the exact dates. And WSP was a low bid at the time, and so we awarded to them.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, you might have more information about this along with Mr. Adams, but the Beech Street, Park Street connector, that is part of the Eastern Gateway plan?
So it's part of the overall Eastern Gateway Master Plan.
Oh.
But it was designed by another firm, who was, we went out and got we went out for another tender to get engineering services to design that work.
Okay, so that connector will connect Beech and Park, but what about connecting onto the Riverside Drive or the arterial highway off Park Street? Will that remain open?
No, part of the overall master plan is to disconnect Park Street from bypass.
Oh.
Yeah. So they'll come up, to be able to come up to the racetrack.
Correct.
Right.
So
And
they'll still be able to come into the
Yeah.
parking lot, they'll still be able to, there's a,
Come through the parking lot?
they can come to the parking lot.
To the parking lot.
Yeah,
Oh, and that's it?
that's it.
That's
That's
it.
correct.
They cannot connect onto Park?
No.
The U will take
Yeah.
shape after that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, because that is a question, Mr. Chair, that
Yeah,
comes up quite
I
frequently.
got it yesterday, I think you did too.
Right. And just the last question, on the water and wastewater, I know it's not your bailiwick, but that work has already started, correct? That tender was awarded? For the Eastern Gateway?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
but it has been, we did tender for that, right?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yep,
Thank you.
yeah, that was tendered, that's correct.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Ramsey?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Scott, for the update. Raiders Road, I'm looking at it again. That project was on the books for a year now. I see it's been awarded, so when do we expect that to be finished, since the school year is already in now, and people on Burns Avenue are looking for that little safety purpose too?
Yeah, so I believe the start date was supposed to be Monday. The contractor is moving into site to do that work Monday. With the storm, I don't know how that's going to impact the schedule, so it could be a few days difference. But as far as I know, they're still on schedule to start that work next week and complete that part this year.
And one more,
Yeah, sure.
you don't know how long of a project that's going to be, time-wise?
I don't have that schedule in front of me, but I can get that answer for you to let you
Sure.
know what they expect to do.
Thank you very much.
And one more question on that, Scott, and I probably should know, but none of that's being affected by the Beech Grove project? Like, we're not using that, we're not using that as a
No,
detour in
no,
Gary?
no.
Jeez.
No.
Yeah, okay, no, I just want to make sure. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on then to tenders. We have the RFP for snow removal services. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chair. So earlier, or I guess it probably would have been early this month, or no, August, my apologies, we issued a request for proposals for snow removal on our main routes, I would call them. These were the routes that were plowed by the provincial government for the past 7 years. The province has since, I believe, they're just trying to focus more so on their infrastructure and not contracting out to municipalities if they can. So they had asked to, since their contract expired this past winter, they were not, they just didn't want to renew it if they could avoid it. So we went out to request for proposals so that to find a local contractor to do this work. We had four submissions that we received. Of these 4 submissions, they were scored. We looked at both the written proposal and the score. So it was a split of 50% of your score would be based on the written proposal, 50% would be based on your price. So we went through these all these proposals to look at completion, how complete the package was, and there was a scoring criteria in the RFP that we issued, and that we looked at, and we scored them based on those criteria, with the information that was provided in each proposal. And you can see in there, we had the 4 scores. 87 was Chapman's, Island Construction was 81. Masson's was 58, and Label Construction was 0. The reason why they were 0, their price was extremely high compared to everyone, so they didn't get a score on theirs. Based on our scoring matrix for price, they received 0. And they did not actually submit anything written. It was just they returned the RFP documents signed, but there was no written information associated with that. So there was nothing we could score them on for that.
Thank you very much. We'll open the floor up for questions. Anyone got concerns, questions, or comments?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
So if I look at the tender and actually the results, because we don't have the tender document here. Scott, if you look at the amounts on your cover page, it's Chapman Brothers, $17,800. So you have to times that by 25.5 kilometers, and then times that by 5, because it's a 5-year contract. So we're looking at about $500,000 in difference, the difference between the lowest and who you're recommending. I know with Island Construction, they've been in the business for a long time. They've been plowing. I think they plow almost 200 miles, but 260 kilometers for the provincial government. So the experience is there. Again, when you look at our procurement policy, it does talk about low price. I didn't or couldn't find anything about a definitive explanation on submitting proposals for bids or for tendering. And I don't know if that's a qualifier. Again, for me, the qualifier is the cost to the city. And when you're looking at what we're dealing with, and I send this to our CAO before the meeting, is that we're not moving hazardous nuclear waste. We're not moving a rocket ship around the island. All we're doing is moving snow. And I believe if we were to talk to Stephen Yo or Darren Chason, who was former Deputy Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Energy, I'd say that the contractors for the province do a good job, and if they weren't doing a good job, we definitely would hear about it. So again, the proposal to me is to outline what they have to provide, and if I look at the equipment that Chapman Brothers have, or the Island Construction, or J.E. Matheson, or LaBelle, we're looking at a difference of little difference between the two, because they're in the business. They not only do snow removal, they're the biggest producer of asphalt on Prince Edward Island. So I'm taking those issues or matters into consideration. And for me, I'm quite confident that 81 points doesn't override the saving of $500,000 over 5 years, and the credibility of the company that has the lower bid. I'd be a little concerned if it was someone else, if it was someone off island, or someone that just I didn't know of, or we didn't know of as a council or as a city government. So I'm not supporting the recommendation. And Mr. Chair, as a member of this committee, under the MGA, I do have the right to oppose it, and I will be opposing it because I'm quite confident in the qualification of the lowest bid, the qualifications of the lower bidder. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Duffy's not here. Any other comments, concerns, or Scott, you want to?
Certainly, and Mr. Mayor, I completely agree. These gentlemen, they run an excellent company. I've had many dealings with you folks over the years, and I had the utmost respect for them and their company. They do fantastic work for the city. They've always been very responsive and worked well with us. So nothing against their credibility at all. Could they do the work? I'm sure they're very capable to do the work. Just when I'm in my role, when we issue requests for proposals and we have an outline of how we score each proposal, we have to look at that and be as fair as possible across the board. And the fairest way is we unfortunately can't assume that we know them based off of their past history with us. We have to base our decision and our scoring system based on the information that is provided in black and white in front of us. Because we could have had contractors that we've never worked with supply us or put in a bid. And so we have to be very careful in making those and scoring that without judgment based on past performance. And it is a challenging thing, especially when I work with Island Construction. I've worked with Chapman Brothers. We work with all of them, and I have the utmost respect for all these contractors that submitted bids. But again, at the end of the day, because we have that table that's set out, the scoring parameters set out in the RFP, that's how we score to. And again, this is just recommendation based on what we saw in black and white in front of us. Again, council has, you guys have your job to do. Again, it's just a recommendation. It's nothing against any contractor out there. I have the utmost respect and enjoy working with Island Construction and look forward to many more years of working with them around the city. Again, it's just, this was how the scoring matrix was set up. And at the end of the day, these are the scores that we came out with.
Mr. Chair, just my second, and this,
Yeah, just your
I know we
second,
got two times to speak.
Yep,
That's-
you
We have
can.
to respect the rules of the chamber.
Appreciate that.
So if you go to the procurement policy, scope 2.0, 2.1, the City of Charlottetown recognized the increased competition results in lower cost. That's what we're seeing here. In 2.3, subsection 2.3, the city reserves the right to award bids, quotations, and tenders in the best interest of its taxpayers after considering all factors. And I appreciate your recommendation, but I don't agree with it. And that's the system of the process we're living in, and I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And Scott, any other comments, concerns? Yes,
Yeah, I just
Councilman.
have a comment, Mr. Chair. It's just, like as the mayor stated too, it's over $500,000 difference, between these two companies for this job. And I'm certainly, if we go with the lower bid, we can use that $500,000 somewhere else pretty easily, this day and age. So I see both sides of the coin, and I see where Scott says we have a whole thing that you grade people on, or businesses and all that. But at the same time, we've been looking at putting sidewalks, paving streets and that. Maybe if we did save that, we can put that money somewhere else. Now, that's just my personal opinion, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't agree with Councillor Ramsey. We can't start switching back and forth. It's a point system. I'm sorry, it's a point system, 87 and 81. And where's the $500,000? I see $5,000 maybe, or $3,800. Where's the $500,000?
And those rates are per kilometer.
Yeah.
So we base everything, so the contract would be for 25.5 kilometers of roadway. So we would, every year, you'd times that rate by 25.5.
I was a little confused.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk in annual amounts, I think we should stick to annual amounts and not start multiplying and dividing. I'm a little slow, but I'm not that slow, so. So I kind of equate the same thing to a basketball game. In a basketball game, there's a couple of ways you can rack up points. You can rack up points by field goals, which is 2, or so far out from the basket, it's 3. So that's one way of racking up points. And the other way to rack up points is foul shots, and you get 1 credit for each one of those. So at the end of the game, whoever's got the most points, regardless of what endeavor on the court they played, whether it was foul shots or field goals. So at the end of the game, and I don't mean to take this lightly as a game, but the end of the situation, if one group has 87 points and the other group has 81 points, it's all quite obvious the people, unless there's very extenuating circumstances, the people with the most points win. And to be jumping back to give it to 81 today and then another competition 3 days or 3 years down or 3 months down the road, then we're back up to the high, like it's up and down like a fiddler's elbow, and I don't see any reason for an exemption. And I know that's not going to please the Island Construction folks. I realize that, but I just try to play the whole thing fair, and that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Scott, is the committee allowed to see the actual evaluation?
Yeah, we can provide the breakdown following this, yes, if you like. We like, it's a bunch of chicken scratches. We usually clean it up and create a table, but yeah, we can definitely get it cleaned up and show the committee.
Okay, because I know Councillor Yankoff is very much always wanting to see that information, right? And that's, I'm just...
Yeah, I just wanted some clarity, because it seems like 1 minute, sometimes we're hearing that it's the lowest price gets the job. And then sometimes we're saying, no, it's a point system. Like, I'm just curious about, where's the continuity? What is it? Is it the lowest price, or is it the point system of, so I've seen different situations where we have gone with a higher price and it's point system, and then other times it's like, nope, lowest price. What, like, is there a policy?
Where the discrepancy comes in, or the confusion comes in, it depends if we're doing a request for quotes, a tender, or a request for proposals. Those are kind of the three various types of ways that we would procure services from a contractor or business. Request for quotes typically is we're buying like a car or a computer, very small specifications, super easy to go out and say, we need a computer, has these few specifications, give us a price. A tender is typically for major construction, something that is designed by a consultant or an engineering firm. It has a number of unit prices and has a very thick, what we call specifications. And it's a very detailed book on, here's the type of sub-base material we need, here's the grading, here's how you place it, all that stuff. It's very detailed on that. And so how we go for quotes, or how we go out to tender with that, we ask for unit prices. So we ask for, if we're doing asphalt, for instance, we ask the unit price, what is the cost per ton of seal asphalt? What is the cost per ton of base asphalt? What is the cost per ton for aggregate? So it's all based on a weight or measurement, is a tender document. So because we can, all those contracts put in a bid on the tender, they say they're going to meet the minimum specifications that we put out there for this contract, and here's our price per tonnage, or price per unit per ton, or whatever it is, then that is the lowest price win, because we're comparing apples to apples, right? Everyone's playing by the same playing field because it's a specification. When you're going out to RFP, or a request for proposals, what you're doing, in my experience, and what we do with most of our proposals is, here's our problem, here's what we expect, but tell us how you will achieve that. What your staffing is going to be, what your management team is going to be, what your equipment is going to be, what your philosophy on approaching, attacking the problem, what your quality control is like, all those things. We want to see how a proponent or a contractor, how are they planning to achieve the end result that we are putting out there. And so then we take their proposals and we score them based on the matrix or the table that we'd set out in the proposal documents, to see how well they did present that information, how well they understood the scope of work and the problem that we have, and they meet that end result that we're looking for. And so when you have that matrix specification and price, there's different scoring systems out there. You can do you can set, in this case, we said 50% would be based on their proposal and 50% would be based on price. Sometimes you'll do 70-30, sometimes it depends on if you're heavily focused on the proposal side of things or heavily focused on the price side of things. It depends on the type of work. But yeah, those are essentially the Coles notes of the three different types of tenders, or three different types of documents that the city will issue to receive, to go out and source either a contractor or materials.
So it's either a request for quote, a tender, or a request for a proposal.
Correct.
And so in this case, it was a request for a proposal.
Correct.
And when the request for the proposal went out, was it clear in that request that it was a point system, not just based on price?
Yes, because it states, there's a section, I think it's section 4, it states, here's the scoring table, and then, like, we assign points to each kind of category we score on, like methodology, I think was 25%, which we're looking for. We're trying to understand their team, their understanding of the problem that we have, how their understanding that, how they're going to attack those problems, how they're going to handle heavier snow. We're trying to see what their game plan is and how well they understand the problem. And again, someone may completely understand the issue with snow removal, but the challenge is you got to put it in black and white. Like, we can't score based on, we know the contractor, we know that they do really great work, but with a request for proposal, it has to be in the proposal document for us to be able to score it. And typically then the proposal document of the accepted bidder forms part of the final contract as well. So if a contractor said, I am going to provide, I don't even know, like a certain service as part of their proposal, then that forms the agreement and we hold them to that standard as well. So that's why the proposal is very important, because that helps us finalize the agreement, because that all becomes part of that final contract with the contractor.
Chair, have I maxed out my questions, or can I?
You're still on the same, you're good for one more, since you didn't need
I'm just proposing, there seems to be a few questions around, like, showing your work. Like, should we have that included in our report, so that we know that we're seeing all the information of how you got to this scoring?
So it's never been asked at the committee level. We can obviously definitely provide that in the future for sure, and provide that as a document. I guess, like I say, since I've been here, I've never been asked to show it at the committee meetings. But if going forward, we definitely can make sure that happens for sure.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move a deferral in what Councillor Yankoff is asking, because I've dealt with tenders before with our business, of which now I'm in blind trust, so I want to make sure people know that. And that going through that tender document, there are steps that we should look at, and I think Councillor Yankoff from Ward 1 makes a very good point. So I move deferral to get the information.
We have a motion on the floor to defer. I would need a seconder. Sorry, go ahead, Donna, but we do have, I should deal with the motion first. Yeah, so I do need a seconder.
Okay, like, I'll second it for discussion, but I'm concerned with timelines as well.
Well, maybe,
But I will second it.
maybe that can be, okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded, so we'll ask staff here just to give another, or Scott, want us to talk again, or?
Yeah, I guess my concern again is it's definitely timelines. So I think we put in it that the contractor has to be ready by October 15th or November 1st. I can't remember. One of those 2 days pop up in my head. And with this storm coming up, my resources and myself, after this, we're focused on storm for the next number of days. That's just my concern. Again, we can, you guys have the final decision and we can postpone it. We just risk some complications going forward.
Could the additional pieces of the report just be circulated by email, and then the vote could be done that way? So that way it's not taking, we
I'd
can
be
still
okay
meet
with
the deadlines?
I'd be okay with that.
It will take a little bit to get together. It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Just because we do.
But we could probably,
You won't be able to make my notes.
but would we be able to have this ready though before going to council, right? We should, or should
We
we?
will try to get it ready tomorrow if we can for council.
Yeah, because,
Monday, yeah.
Staff are totally preoccupied with the storm and trying to get the material, trying to get ready for the storm. So that, I mean, it may be on a Saturday or Sunday, because we may be all in here.
Yeah, who knows?
But, I mean, we can, I guess I was speaking for staff, we will make the effort. If not, we will do it when we can the first of the week, and we'll go to the mayor and ask for a special council meeting. If that's what the committee wants.
Well, we'll do, I guess the first question is, would it go to, it would go back to this committee, would it not?
Yes,
First?
yes,
Right, and
yeah.
then we would make a recommendation to
Yeah,
council?
yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so is everybody good
And
with
Mr.
that?
Chair, could I just add that, as the CAO did mention, that if we can get this information out as soon as possible, and it won't be available for Monday, we could have a special council meeting later on before the end of the month, like, do it as soon as possible because of the timelines.
Timelines are essential on this one, because
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so are we happy with that? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to defer until staff can give us a breakdown of the actual scores, and we'll try and have it done as quick as possible. All those in favor of that motion to defer? 1, 2, 3, 4. That is all of us. Motion is approved. So, Scott, you got some homework to do. Good. After this weekend. Thank you very much. Okay, we have the sidewalk construction tenders of 2022. Mr. Adams.
Yes, thank you. So this was our second tender this year for
Thank you.
sidewalks. We had some that went earlier this year, and then another round later this year. And the reason why it's later, just we didn't have them ready designed. So we hired an engineering firm earlier this year to design this, and they were only able to get it completed in August. So we went out to tender, and we received two bidders, one from Earthform Construction, the other one from Island Coastal Services. And in comparison to the prices that we have received earlier this year and last year, the prices have gone up 2.5 times, for some reason, from earlier this year to now. There are a number of factors that could play into that. Maybe they're just, they could be busy and they're just trying to, do extra work and try to fit it in so they can. I don't know the true meaning as to why they're much higher. So based on the prices, we looked at it, and based on what we have seen this year and last year, we had to recommend not to move to award this year. And the reason is, the concern would be, we just don't want to set that bar saying, we believe that the price per meter of sidewalk is $750 when it should be down around the $350 mark is what we believe is the right price. So we thought it'd be better use of city funds if we waited till and until and retender in the fall, spring for an early start next year.
Mr. Chair?
Okay, Councilor Ramsey.
Thank you. Thank you again, Scott, for that. Seems like there's some projects, and not only this group, but sewer and water, everything else, the price is going up and it's doubled and it's tripled. We all understand that, because when you do a little bit of work around your house, you can really notice when you go to Home Depot or wherever you go. But at the same time, if we keep delaying or putting off to the next year, there's still not going to be any guarantee that, let's say there's a project's worth $970,000 this year, that is certainly not going to be 1.6 million next year or something like that. So by sort of putting off to the next year, are we setting ourselves up to spend more maybe, or like, it's hard to say like how the world's going right now, and I understand all that, but it's just that if we can't afford a project this year, I just hope that the price is not going to double again next year. Thank you.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Great concern, and it is true. We don't truly know what the prices will be next year. Historically, this is a huge jump that we've never seen that big of an increment, so it does raise alarm bells with us. And so that's why it is a concern to us, and we can see a lower prices in the spring. Again, at the end of the day, it's a recommendation based on what we see. And one thing we would have to do is reallocate some funds from the capital budget to cover the overages for this, because we did not budget this much. And there is some room in our capital budget. There is some room that we can reallocate funds to do this if that's the decision of council. And again, we're not opposed to doing the work, and we were just concerned about the pricing and wanted to bring it to council's, especially committee's attention, that we thought it was quite high, extremely high. And again, based on what we have seen in the past, you typically do see a bit cheaper prices in the spring. And so that's why we made the recommendation. Again, just a recommendation. You, council, can make the recommendation to move to award. And again, we'd be happy to manage the project and get it underway as quickly as we can.
Councillor Duffy, you have your
Yes.
button to tell you. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chair. I do agree. We all talked about this back at budget time, back in January, March, and February, in the middle there. We talked about the COVID escalator, those of us who are on finance, knowing fully well that everything was going to be more than we thought it would be. So we got estimates in, say, in February, stating a $1,000 number, only to find out that up in April, that $1,000 number jumped up to $2,500, and that was per article. So it's a vast difference over quite a few of those articles. So the old, not only inflation got us, but the shortage of manpower or person power, if it was wages or services we were talking about, or the advancement of the cost of materials, if it was that sort of thing. So we knew it was coming. We thought we would budget for it, but we still got bit by it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we're reminded time and time again on Finance Committee that although we have these glorious plans and these fantastic structures and whatever we're going to do in a fiscal year, we find ourselves time and time again only spending 75% of our capital budget, and the other 24% or 20, whatever sits over there in the personal line of credit, for the lack of a better term, and it just dies on the order paper. It'd be nice if we could find and I sympathize with Scott because of this fantastic movement forward, but we also have to see it from a resident's point of view and from a political point of view. Is, these people were promised time and time again. They trusted us, so to speak, and it was on the sheet of paper. There was no reason to think it wasn't going to happen, and all of a sudden it is. And maybe we can look at our capital projects for this year, and is there any there that are very highly unlikely to be considered, and therefore that money could be used as maybe not to absorb all of the increase that this $700,000 will cause, but maybe a good portion of it, ease it a bit. Anyway, that's all I have to add. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yankoff. And then I believe you have something you do. Okay, just I'll let Lana go first. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple things. It's nice to hear that there is money available in the capital budget. I just find it's the residents now have been promised these new sidewalks, and we're in an area of the city that is growing fast, and there's not as many sidewalks out there. I just think if there's a way to be able to complete this project this year, I think, I would definitely support moving some of that unused money in the capital budget to ensure it does get done, and to build on what Councillor Ramsey said. We don't know what the cost is going to be next year. It could continue to grow. So that's just my 2 cents worth. So
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bernard, I believe, as a guest, you have some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing me to come into your meeting as guest, and more importantly, allowing me to say a few words. Much appreciated. I know it doesn't happen that often, but I do appreciate it. I'm not here to be critical of Scott or anybody else. I think a lot of what I was going to say was said by your members. You know, we get these updates in our council package, and we see where the completion date is due. And once the capital budget was passed, it was a printed document that's public. I let my constituents know that this work was going to get done. The only thing I'd like to say is we used to always want to pass the capital budget early in the year. November is at best. This year, it was January. Still not clear in my head why 8 months later we're just tendering this out now. The idea of getting a capital budget passed early was, one, to try and get out ahead of the province. Because we know the reason the prices are high, and you're going to have it in every project, and we've had it the last few years. Supply chain was an issue, but it's also contractors have so much work, and then now you're throwing out more. And the idea was to get these projects out early. So there's going to be an escalated cost just because of that. So I think one is to get the projects out early. Two, like even now, even this project, Scott, you alluded to you couldn't get them out fairly early to get started, because I don't know how long this is going to take. But you know, when you start digging into November and December, you want the project wrapped up. It is only a block. It's not like it's a long project, so I assume it's not going to take that long.
No, once it's awarded, it should, I know, so this contractor is the one that's doing Lincoln and Centennial right now. But their goal would be just to hop on to them then. Once they finish Lincoln and Centennial, they would hop over to this. They might free up a second crew to start prep work at the other location. Again, we'd have to confirm their schedule once it's awarded, so.
Okay.
We would work with them to get it started as quickly as we could.
So it's the same company that's doing those other two streets?
Correct.
So, Scott, just while I'm allowed to speak, I guess, I wonder why you wouldn't tender them all out at the same time?
So we had the other streets designed early last year during 2021. So we were able to get them tendered in the springtime. Again, this we had to wait until try to find engineering firms to do this work. This engineering firm also had the multi-use pathway project, and they were working at them concurrently, but we were just able to get the multi-use pathway out. There was less detailed work, I guess, to finish that one versus this one to get it out.
Because this one's just straight going. There's
It
no
is,
ditches,
yeah.
There's no culverts, there's no stormwater.
Yeah, it is, and it's
This
just
is straightforward.
The consultant industry is swamped, just like everyone as well, and that's really what it is. I think we awarded the engineering work in beginning of May, I think it was.
So do
Sometime May.
we have engineers that can do this in-house?
We do not.
We do
We
not?
don't have the capacity to do it at the moment, no. We'd love to work towards that and have had those discussions, but no, we don't have the resources in-house to do that work, no.
Okay. Anyway.
We've been working towards it, but yes, we don't have them yet.
Yeah, so I guess to finish up, again, thank you for allowing me to come in.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I think one of the things is when you have those expectations and your constituents have those expectations, and then just to drop it at
I know, yeah.
the 11th hour, say, oh, by the way, we're not going to do it now, we're going to do it next year.
Yeah.
Next year means that something else gets put off. Because of your 5-year plan that we have set up,
Yeah.
Yep.
either you're going to put more money into the budget next year, or something gets dropped off because you only have so much money.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear, Scott, that you say you can find the money in the budget, and I would obviously would like to see this go ahead. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And if I may, one of the ideas of creating this capital budget update, right, was to keep people in the know, give us the heads up so we can talk to our constituents. But I think the step that's missing is the fact that we should not be promising any job that hasn't already gone to engineering. Like, that's the part, we're always at that bottleneck. It's the engineering side of life that, you know, so we hear at Capital, oh, wow, I'm going to get that done this year, right? But then we find out that the engineering world is turning this inside out, and everything slows down, and then we're back to this process of bidding or tendering at the very last minute of the summer season, and of course you're going to pay more. So I would make a strong suggestion that you know, we break this into two sections. One is for engineering only, and there's no promise to do the work this year, right? And then, once it's engineered, and then next year, we actually do the project. And I think that would solve an awful lot of these issues that we keep running into. Councillor Ramsey had one taken away on him earlier there. It's frustrating because we have told our residents, and if the money's there, Scott, my question, I guess, will all three of these streets, that's my next question is, West Street, Wilmot, and Wedgwood, are all three of these going to get started? If that's,
It's just from to, it's just West Street, West Combe to Wilmot,
yeah.
not 3 streets.
No, but there's three, there's Wilmot Lane, and there's also Wedgwood Avenue that are part of that sidewalk that we promised this year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's, if you look on the yellow sheets, yeah, or if you look on, I guess you don't probably have that cover sheet that we have. But there's three streets left to do besides like your West Streets,
Yeah.
there's all together. So will all three of them get started? Is
Again,
that the goal?
We would absolutely strive to do that, and again, we'll have to work with the contractor to
Yeah.
see how they can fit this into their schedule. Yeah.
Because it would be nice to be able to sell all three.
Yep. We will, like I say, once awarded, we'll work with the contractor to
Okay.
get an updated schedule, and then share that
Yeah.
with both councilors impacted
Yeah.
by the work.
And Councillor Ramsey?
Thank you again, Chair
Second time,
and
sir.
Scott. As you know, I was upset last month over this, of losing one, and I brought up a situation where multi-use pathways, and I know that's the way the world's going right now, but we seem to be dumping an awful lot of money into multi-use pathways, and I'm not against them, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, there's streets, as we're discussing today, or sidewalks that that we're looking at today, that are all of a sudden they're being moved off, or or some of them were moved off, but we're still going ahead with the multi-use pathways. Like, if, maybe we might have to slow down the multi-use pathways and look after all these residential streets that people's been there for 20, 30, 40 years, And then when we have all these residential streets done or up to grade, well, then you move on. Because your multi-use pathways are not for the residents that are living on their street every day and seeing the holes or no sidewalks or whatever it is along that line. So maybe we can sort of shift our focus on that. And that's just my personal opinion, because I know there's 10 wards in the city, and everybody got issues with sidewalks, with streets, and their promises, or I shouldn't say promise, but they're told this is going to happen and all that. But then we turn around and we put 15 or 1.5 million in multi-use pathways. So they're saying, well, I don't use them. That's just a layman's talk. That's all it is. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think at budget time, that is a great time to talk about that balance, because I think from public works standpoint, we look after a lot of different infrastructure, from stormwater, roads, sidewalks, multi-use pathways. And I think it's a balancing act, really, at the end of the day. I think you got to put some funds in each pot of money. I think it just, at the end of the day, it's have those discussions on how much funds go in each pot and what our focus and goals are. I think that's a great time at budget time to start talking about priorities at a council level and setting those goals for staff to achieve those. And I think it's a great segue. We're heading into, we will be in budget season within a few months. Start talking about that. So I think it's a great time to start thinking about these and figuring out what those goals are for coming years. And I think that's one reminder too for councillors, and hopefully not too off topic. It's great to talk about a budget season, but sometimes these goals they're bigger goals, and they take a lot more preemptive work to get to the end result. And sometimes there's expectation that we can complete it the following summer, and there's just a lot of work to be done. I think we got to set overall strategic goals, which I think we're obviously working towards in various channels, and to start those discussions. I think it's a great start, and to move forward and to meet the needs of the city.
No, and I understand that, and I know there's only so much money, because I said for 8 years now, like, the money tree died out back. But anyway, we just gotta, I think we gotta look after the wards first before we, and that's a great budget talk too, because if I'm around, in the future, like, that's one thing I'll be bringing up is let's look after the residential streets and all that first before we go with your multipaths, your multi-path walkways and bike lanes and all. And I know the whole world's turning that way because it's exercise and your fresh air and all that stuff, but not everybody uses them. I guess is my point. So thank you very much.
Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to offer Mr. Adams my assistance. I will, after the November the 7th date, like I'll have a lot of time in my hands, so I own my own level. I know a couple of guys that know what a cement mixture looks like, so I can do something. I can help you out. That's what I'm trying to get at. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Oh, my God. What you're saying is your job's not over.
When you're the representative of Brighton Ward 3, your job is never over.
Over. Thank you very much. So just before we move on there, so Scott, refresh my memory though, did we not make a motion at one point or another that any new sidewalks moving forward would be asphalt?
Great question. So
Yeah.
kind of a complicated, not complicated answer. It's
In a new area,
yeah, in new areas, correct. It's really hard to justify putting, 500 meters of multi-use pathway when either side of it butts up against a concrete sidewalk.
Okay.
It just didn't
Yeah.
make sense to do that. Hillsborough Park is a great example. There's only a few remaining streets that haven't gotten the sidewalk. And we recognized at the time of putting our master plan together that there's a few connections that are missing. I would say 90% of the neighborhood has sidewalks. So that was one of the goals of our master plan, was to finish off those neighborhoods, because it was kind of odd. You get to an end of the sidewalk, you're in not no man's land, but you have no more sidewalk. And then 500 meters away, you get back onto a sidewalk. So we're trying to finish those connections. And again, if it's an already established area with a lot of sidewalks in the area, we'll continue with the sidewalk.
Okay. I get it.
Anything new, or if it's a large development with only a few sidewalks,
It'd be asphalt.
we will likely do asphalt and then eventually convert those sidewalks to multi-use. So a bit of a balancing act there.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Any other comments, concerns? If not, we'll need a motion to move that resolution. Or I guess we'll have to ask for a change in the motion, right? Because our staff's recommendation is not to go ahead with those streets. So I'll need a motion by Councillor Duffy to actually go ahead with the project. So I need a seconder. Councillor Ramsey, I guess, put his hand up first. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to not to take staff's recommendation, but to go ahead and get this work started with the remaining money to come somewhere within the capital budget. Due to the fact that it's kind of been promised, right? Okay, good.
We'll add that to the motion for Monday night.
Yeah, okay, cool. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, and the mayor is absent. Okay. The mayor is absent, so 3-0 vote. Okay.
I just want to say thank
you.
you again, Mr. Chair and the
Yep.
committee. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your concerns. Okay, let's move on to the number 3 of the tenders, and that's the changeover of the Geomo thermal wells. You're up again, Scott.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just I guess a housekeeping item. I think you all may remember a couple months ago, we had a bit of an urgent financial approval for additional geothermal wells out at our new MacLear facility. We sent around the emails to this committee and the finance committee with a clear explanation of what had happened and why we're looking for an emergency approval to award or to issue that change order, because it was quite significant. And we did get unanimous approval at this committee and finance committee to approve that. So we did go ahead and have the work done and save the city about probably, I think someone told me around $75,000 to do it now versus waiting to formal approvals and potentially delay the project as well. So this is a housekeeping item to bring this resolution to get it formally approved and adopted by council.
Thank you very much. Okay, so any questions, comments, concerns on this one? pretty straightforward, I guess, yeah. So I'll need a motion to move this forward. Moved by Councillor Duffy, seconded by Councillor Yankov, that we take staff's recommendation. All those in favor? We have 3 in favor and 1 absent, so 3-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to introduction of new business. Go ahead, Councillor.
Chair, if I may. Scott, I think when Terry, maybe, were you and Chair maybe, or not? No, it was Terry McLeod, I'm sorry. We were looking at purchasing a machine for asphalt curbs, right? Was that a year ago or 2 years ago? And, pardon me?
Yeah, we've been asking.
No, because the ones that, this machine, I don't know why I'm dreaming this up, but it was supposed to go around and fix the asphalt curbs that are already there, like instead of putting the concrete ones. Like, you know, when you do a street over, you're putting the concrete ones down for snow removal and everything along that line. But just to repair them, did we not approve a machine for that?
That's not, I know we've had discussions on it, and we talked about if we want to repair those or not. We typically
I thought we
try
paid
not.
200 and some thousand, or looking at, why the pop
The machine that you're thinking of is it's a concrete slip form machine. That was one of the machines that we were looking at some point in time, but it was solely for concrete, not asphalt.
No, I thought there was an asphalt, because there's some residents that their asphalt ones are already tore up from the snow plow and
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it is.
Yep.
And they go on and say, this is all, the only thing I want done is my curb fixed. And I thought last year or something, maybe I could be wrong, that we were looking at that anyway.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, and I'll have 2 answers for you. One, I'll just say that we were pushing hard for the gutter curb machine, simply because of water drainage problems on a lot of streets, right? And that is cement. I don't recall, but Councillor Bernard, it might have been during Councillor Bernard's time as Public Works Chair, so if he's got anything he might want to share.
Yeah, back a number of years ago, the asphalt curbs come out too easily. Plows hit them, they're gone. So we had changed a number of years ago to getting cement curbing put in. So when a street gets paved, when they either pulverize or mill it down, they'll take out the asphalt curbs, what's left of them, and then they'll put in cement curbs. And then the asphalt goes up against that and has something to help hold it in better. So that's been working quite well. I'm 90% sure we have a sidewalk curbing machine.
Sidewalk curb, or you mean asphalt curb?
Cement.
So we have a small little.
Yeah, it is a small one, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we do. Yeah.
And they can do repairs in that with that.
Yes.
But not with asphalt.
No, the only reason I brought it up is because because these streets are not paved, they're not newly paved, but they're asphalt curbs and the water runoff, as the chair said. And is there any way, or is there any machine that we have, or any manpower that we can fix like these 3 or 4 curbs in front of the people residents, you know?
Can you send me a list? If you
I
have
will.
a list of residents, we'll have a look and see what we,
Yeah.
if there is a repair that we can do to get through. Yes, please send along. We'll
Like,
have
for
someone look
example,
at it.
Woodbine, like the water runs right down, and Doug Ross and all them live down there, Mike, you know them. But the curb is sort of wrecked, and the water's out there, and it goes on their property and stuff like that. So they're just basically, for 8 years now, they were just sort of fixing the curb so the water would run. Because when we did Woodbine over, we put the concrete curbs, and it looks beautiful. You know, but you just, the upside of the street, but I'll certainly get you the list. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so any other new business? Oh,
I was just
Councillor
going to
Duffy.
add
Yeah.
that on the asphalt thing.
Oh, sorry.
The deal was always that the asphalt curbing was used for or any curbing was used for 2 purposes. One was to usher water to the catch basin or wherever it's supposed to go. The other one was to keep people from parking on people's front lawns.
Yes.
The 2 doors, and that's what happened. It got to be known that the asphalt curbing was just like fudge. I mean, once the guy pulled up on your lawn, not only is he parking on your lawn, he just wrecked the asphalt curbing that was made of fudge, you know, like
yeah.
it's crumbled. So it was just a pure waste of time, and it looked terrible, as Councillor Ramsey said. So I agree with everything that was said here, that you're going to have to just wait till the street is paved, because you can't put cement curving,
No.
concrete curving down without that
Without that
long strip
gutter
underneath
curbing,
the
yeah.
asphalt. So
Yeah.
that's the one and only solution to the
Yeah.
whole problem.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much, everyone. So I have no more new business. I just need one more motion, and that's to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Duffy. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 1 absent. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time today. Have a great afternoon.